official.
All right. Bringing picture, everyone, live from LA.
All right, Clay, happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you, Robert.
You're looking good. I love those old pictures. That's good. So very cool. Well, I'm gonna have to do either a Steve Goodman or a John Prine song.
Well, let's do the Goodman song.
Goodman?
Yeah.
Tell him to introduce himself.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure I know any. Well,
Robert?
Yeah.
Tell him who you are.
I'm Clay's parole officer, and
Yes.
I'm glad to see that he's made something of his life after we took a chance on letting him out. And no, I'm a writer like Clay. I'm a screenwriter, but I'm also a fiction writer. And anyway, I've known Clay since 2008 when I played a few Steve Goodman songs at Borders. Do you remember Borders when Steve was Clay was promoting the book?
Long Beach.
And I with close guidance from Clay, wrote the screenplay, which is now of Steve Goodman's life, which has caught the attention of the Goodman estate. And John Prine loved it, said I wouldn't change anything. So anyway, they're gonna hopefully, when this pandemic thing gets under control, go to Sony Pictures, which Sony Music owns Goodman stuff, and we'll do a biopic.
Oh.
And Clay's book is the book. You have to link it to a book, and there's only one guy that crossed the finish line with a book, and that's Clay. And so anyway, we this is one you can sing along with if you want. Okay.
We're gonna mute everybody except you.
Riding on the city of New Orleans, Illinois Central, Monday morning rail. 15 cars, 15 restless riders, 3 conductors, 25 sacks of mail. All along the southbound Odyssey, train pulls out of Kankakee, rolls along past houses, farms, and fields, passing towns that have no names, freight yards full of old black men, and the graveyards of the rusted automobiles. Just singing, good morning, America, how are you? Said, don't you know me? I'm your native son. I'm the train they call the city of New Orleans. I'll be gone 500 miles when the day is done, dealing card games with the old man in a club car. Penny a point, there ain't no one keeping score. Say, won't you pass the paper bag that holds the bottle? Feel the wheels rumbling 'neath the floor. And the sons of Pullman porters and the sons of engineers ride their father's magic carpet made of steel. Mothers with their babes asleep, rocking to that gentle beat, and the rhythm of the rails is all they feel. Just singing, good morning, America, how are you? Said, don't you know me? I'm your native son. I'm the train they call the city of New Orleans. I'll be gone 500 miles when the day is done. Nighttime on the city of New Orleans. Changing cars in Memphis, Tennessee. Halfway home, we'll be there by morning. Through the Mississippi darkness, rolling down to the sea. But all the towns and people seem to fade into a bad dream, and the steel rails still ain't heard the news. The conductor sings his songs again. Passengers will please refrain. This train's got the disappearing railroad blues. Just singing good night America, how are you? Said, don't you know me? I'm your native son. I'm the train they call the city of New Orleans. I'll be gone 500 miles when the day is done. I'll be gone 500 miles when the day is done. Happy birthday, Clay.
Woo!
Do you feel Steve on your shoulder there?
Well, thank you, Robert. Thank you. Boy.
You know, I don't know if you've read Clay's book, but the story of how that song got written and what inspired it is really, really something. And Goodman just basically, on his way down to the University of Illinois, decided to go all the way to New Orleans, which is the name of the train, the city of New Orleans, why it goes all the way down. And on the way back, he was struck with inspiration, and it evolved into that incredible song, best train song ever, you know. And but there was so much more to Steve, and Clay captured it all, you know. So
Thank you, Robert.
pass the paper. Oh, there's no paper bag.
That's right.
It's just a bottle.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Thanks for being my partner.
Hey, man, listen,
Yeah,
we're gonna do it. We're gonna make it happen, Clay.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. I've got a friend who keeps bugging me. She wants to know when she can buy her Oscar dress.
Here we go. The best is yet to come.
There you go. I actually send a video of Peggy Lee singing that song when everyone has a birthday. I often sing that. I often send that video. The best is yet to come. I love that you just captured that phrase. You know. Yeah. Sooner than later. Let's make it happen. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert.
Could I just say one thing too, also on a personal note? I don't know anybody that is a better composer of correspondence than Clay Eals. He is a prolific letter writer nowadays on email, but I don't think there's been a single time when Clay has run like a draft of something by me and said, should I change anything? And it's like, no, don't change anything. I've rarely seen that. In first draft, just ready to go on everything, Clay.
I can see Jack David smiling there.
Everybody needs an editor.
That's Jack David, my publisher.
Yes.
All right.
I don't think I've ever even seen a typo on any correspondence that you've done. Not one.
I'm seeing a lot of shaking heads. You guys, Ronia is gonna say happy birthday or something to her grandfather.
Hey, Ronia.
Hi.
Great to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Happy birthday. I'm gonna have to hop off because my head hurts, but it was really great to see you. I'm happy
Well, I
to
hope
be on
Robert's
this.
singing helped your head.
I'm afraid I probably made it worse. Are you the one that just had the bat mitzvah?
Yeah.
Congratulations, mazel tov. Much mazel, as they say.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye,
Ronia.
baby.
Good to see you. Love you.
All right, now I've got a whole list of people who have stories.
Uh-oh.
I
Uh-oh.
think I'd like to call on you.
Uh-oh.
I think I'm gonna call on Joyce Routson.
Hey, Joyce. Joyce, you're in the slideshow. You were with me in the
I am?
Oregonian. Yeah, you'll see it. You'll see it.
Okay. All right. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. She's from Oregon Daily Emerald days,
Yeah.
back in the early 70s. We all worked
Yeah.
together.
I think my story starts in 1970, maybe. And it deals with one of the most memorable nights of my life, actually. Trying to bail Clay out of jail. That is, I think we thought he'd been arrested. It started with a demonstration on campus. Those were very turbulent times on campus. And Clay and I were covering the demonstration for the Emerald. The cops came and we got tear gassed, and I ran away, but Clay ran toward the cops. So I couldn't find him, went back to the Emerald, and a bunch of folks set out to try to find Clay. And I believe that some of us piled into a little VW that Grattan Caron's had. And so we started driving around Eugene trying to find Clay. I vividly remember at one point we thought we saw him in the back of a car, but it turned out to be somebody else. So at this point, my memory gets a little hazy, and I can't remember if Clay actually got arrested, but we were certainly put out that the cops totally ignored the fact that we were press. And I remember a very long night. So Clay, you'll have to fill in a little of the details. Were you really arrested?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we was up on the.
His hair was the length of mine.
Oh, not that long. Almost. But it was. We were coming. We were filling in after 10 o'clock because Steve Smith had to come back to the Emerald. It was Thursday night for the Friday morning paper to make deadline, and so the demonstration was keeping on, and this was on Alder Street in Eugene. And the demonstrators would charge, and the police would go back. The police would charge. And it went back and forth. And finally, the police charged all the way. That's what you're remembering. And they came up the grassy hill next to Alder Street. And one guy, these are right. Off-duty or, impromptu drafted deputies. And one of them beat me to the ground. And I was face down on the ground, and I had my hands behind my back. And I said, I've got my press card, my Emerald press card. Can I show it to you? And he says, shut up, you goddamn long-haired bastard. And then he put the billy club in my back and finally yanked me up and put me in the paddy wagon with 50 other people. And we went to jail. And I spent the night in jail. And unbeknownst to me, the efforts that you made also were accompanied by Art Bushnell. This was spring of 1971. And he on the paper he got President Clark, Robert Clark, to write a letter on my behalf because I'd called him for a quote earlier in the night, so he knew I was covering things. And he wrote a letter to the police chief, Dale Allen, and by the morning they finally let me out of jail. I was arrested for unlawful assembly, and I went walking the 15 blocks or so from downtown jail back to the Oregon Daily Emerald student newspaper office at the UO campus, and walked up the stairs to 301 Allen Hall. It was about 7 in the morning. And then on the big blackboard, as you walked in the door, there was these 2 words that said, "Free Clay." Felt so good. And then I wrote about it in the next Monday morning's paper. So, very, very, very memorable night, Joyce. Thank you for all you did that night.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you filled in some of the details. It was a very memorable night, but never run toward the cops, Clay.
That's a good lesson, and I'll send you the story. All right.
How about Deb Barker from the Admiral Theater?
Oh boy. Hey, Deb.
Hi, it's Deb Barker. Haven't been to the Admiral Theater since pre-pandemic. And has anyone here stepped in with pandemic rules? Raise your hand. Well, of course you would, Clay. Yeah, okay, good. So
we saw In the Heights.
Yeah. So
that's true.
I think I met Clay. I missed the rally to save the theater that got all the press and all the good pictures in the paper and the news papers and the new TV news coming down. Yeah, I but I still got to help save the Admiral Theater by, God, how many months? I don't know.
Oh, it was a
Sunday
6-month
afternoon.
campaign, 6 months, and you came in right after the rally. And
Sunday
without you, we
afternoon,
wouldn't have been able to landmark it. You knew landmarking.
allegedly new landmarking and could talk a good talk, but meetings at the West Seattle Library in the basement for months, and getting community members to push out buttons. I think my only story I'm just going to tell, and it's kind of one of these, it's a tough story to tell, but one of the things that we did with the Save the Admiral Theater was participate in the Grand Hayu Parade. And there was a float of some sort of large object. And I do remember that, I don't know why it's crystal clear in my head, but one of the volunteers who was putting together, picking up different things to get us into the parade that morning. And, you know, you start out at really early at 6 o'clock and you're hustling along. And I think it was Boyd Swanson, and he was so busy that he backed his car out of his garage and took off a door to the car. And, you know, a fairly new car. And so this is what I remember about the Save the Admiral Theater first float in the Hayu Parade, but it sure was a very worthwhile effort to save the Admiral Theater and continue to save, a stone house here and get a couple landmarks there. So happy birthday! I wanted to make sure you could hear that.
Thank you, Deb. That was an intense campaign. It was, I mean, 6 months. It just took 6 months, and the city still holds it up as the model for a community landmark campaign.
Well,
couldn't have done it
pretty much
without you.
anything
I mean,
West
you were
Seattle
right
does,
before.
the city's blown away by, for the good or bad. So speaking of, I'm going to jump to a city meeting on the West Seattle Bridge. In a year, it'll be open. See you all later. Happy birthday, Clay.
Thank
You're
you.
not that old, I'm sure.
How about another friend from the Admiral Theater? Dinah, are you ready?
Oh boy, Dinah, hello.
Hi.
Unmute. I don't. Okay.
And Larry, how you doing?
Muted.
Hey,
Well,
show
hey.
him the picture. Show him the picture that's above you.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Dinah and I are in that photo. We're like little tiny people down in the lower left. But look at the picture. We had 850 school kids there. That was just 5 years ago.
That was a great day. It was crazy. but
That
great
was
day.
a great day.
Deb
You
was
know,
our guerrilla traffic control officer.
there's like too many specific stories. First, I want to say happy birthday to my brother from No Real Mother. I appreciate you. And I'm happy to pay homage to a man who aided me in forcing culture, knowledge, and folk music on a community, whether they wanted to hear it or not.
You're talking about the Pete Seeger 90th birthday celebration.
That's right, exactly.
That was great. We packed the place.
One of Clay's real gifts, I think, is the ability to serve as a bridge between the past, the present, and what's to come in the future by engaging people with his vast knowledge about the history of the community where they live. And I've always been amazed, Clay, at the ease which you interact with a myriad of different people and groups and bring them all together in successful community events. You know, whether it's helping to save the theater, helping to save me when I took over the theater, your work that you did with the Historical Society, your yearly fundraising events that were amazing. You're helping us to raise money to redo the murals. Wonderful events. The last one I remember, the baseball movie that we were there. The gentleman that produced the movie was unhappy because our screen was not working correctly.
Yeah.
As I remember, we used to have lots of problems, and so I had to send one of our staff members to crawl under the screen.
Oh no, Dinah, no, you sent yourself. you crawled underneath and you pulled the levers to get the screen back in the proper ratio.
Well, I did. I started that, and then I got Tony to go under and finish it because your producer was yelling, and a little Mickey Mouse ran across his chest, and he almost dropped the whole thing, and so that was really good. Clay loves history. Clay loves words. When I was over at the Admiral, we all used to dread getting calls from the word police, as we used to lovingly call you, for our marquee. It was the focal point of your, infatuation and wrath. We get a call. Hey, you forgot the apostrophe in Pan's Labyrinth. Or there's 2 L's in millionaire. You forgot the letter E in breathe. Sometimes in your frustration, you would offer to do the marquee, and we let you do it. We let you do it. And I'm wondering if you do that at home with Meg, for shopping list or something. I think you might.
Yeah, correcting the shopping list is that what you do?
I always say he needs an editor himself.
He does. Well, he so willingly does it. But Clay, Larry and I, we love you, your passion,
Same here.
your knowledge, your ability to envision events big and small that leave the community delighted and educated. I'm honored to know you, and I hope to be in your life for many, 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 many years to come. Happy
Me
birthday,
too, me
bud.
too. Thank you, Dinah.
Okay,
Thank you,
can I say
Larry.
something real quick.
Yeah.
I've got to get going. So I put this up because I'm still amazed that this happened. This is in the music room, and I just look at that often. That was a huge gathering. I don't know how that all happened, but
Well, you gotta. I mean, just a brief little bit here. It's all about inspiring kids, because if you really think about it, we of a certain age, we already get history, and the trick is to inspire the kids and get them revved up beforehand, and then they come and they'll do anything you want for a limited amount of time, and they'll pose for a great photo. You saw several photos in slideshow taken by Jean Sherrard, which are non-Periel. I mean, this photo it's inspiring because of people in it, but it's the composition too. And I'm just glad to be one of the little tiny pinpricks in it. Many of us are in that photo. We're just too tiny to see. I'm standing right next to Dinah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
It was awesome, and I love you. Really appreciate all, and I'm looking forward to another baseball game.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
Me too, Larry.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have another song now from Jack, David, and Caron. I'm hoping I'm
David,
saying that
there you are. Are you in the office?
right. This is a recording.
Oh, okay. Oh, go Cubs, go.
Publishing season's up to speed. So get yourself ready for a fabulous read. Hey Toronto, what do you say? Clay's gonna win today. They're singing go Clay go. Go Clay go. Hey Toronto, what do you say? Clay's turning 70 today. Go Clay go. Go Clay go. Hey Toronto, what do you say? Clay's turning 70 today. He's got the power, he's got the speed. He's the best in the biofield. Well, this is the year and Clay's so good. Enjoy the read of his good number. They're singing go Clay go. Go Clay go. Hey Seattle, what do you say? Clay is turning 70 today. Go Clay go. Go Clay go. Hey Seattle, what do you say? Clay is turning 70 today.
How can you imagine having a publisher like that? David, Caron, wonderful. Jack, wonderful.
Stephen Cabo,
Stephen.
you are next.
Up on Whidbey. Where are you, Stephen?
I know you're here. There you are.
There he is.
There I am. Hey. Happy birthday and welcome to the 700 Club. I mean, the 70s Club.
I look almost as young as you do.
That's right.
No, I think you look almost as young. Yes, you respect your elders now. Okay.
Where on Whidbey are you?
I'm near Coopville. I'm near the Coopville ferry dock.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Okay, over on the way over to Port Townsend, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've spent a large part of my childhood in Oak Harbor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. My hobby is Fort Casey. I spend a lot of time over there. So, well, my story deals with
Stephen, they need to know who you are in relation to me.
Oh, I'm your older cousin.
There you go. Not
By
that.
about what, 6 months or something
Yeah,
like that?
right.
Yeah. So it's his mother's older sister's son.
There you go.
Right. Okay. So
Sorry, one more interruption. I'm sorry. This is your life. I have to make you the host so you can share the photo, but then you have to make me the host again after you're finished.
well, do you want to wait till I'm done with the story, because I don't want to show the screen yet.
Yeah, no, not yet. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Go. Now go.
Okay. All right. Well, as we all know, Clay's an outstanding at investigative reporting, and he has a photographic memory. And one of the issues that comes up once in a while when we used to get together is we'd all be talking around in the family, and I'd say something, and Clay would say, "No, wait a minute. 25 years ago, you said Umpty Ump, I've got the letter," and he goes upstairs and gets the letter and brings it down, and I'm going, and then we started, now what about this and what about that? I'm going, that like that, and so he was real good at that. Well, now it's a little time for a little revenge. And once I start the story, I'm not a reporter at all. I'm an engineer. But so I will try to do this as an investigative reporter was. He's going to understand what the photograph is very rapidly, but it's going to be too late, Clay. Okay. Clay has a secret past. It took a deep investigation to discover his dubious past. Clay was a juvenile delinquent as a teenager. Okay. Mm-hmm. He was a juvenile delinquent. He was a rebel with a cause and.
Oops. Wait, where did I mute Steve? Oh, no.
Hang on, Stephen. Hang on.
Already, I've.
There you go.
Except.
I've already been canceled.
She's manipulating a lot of things here. There you go.
Okay, so
sorry.
Okay, so I took a deep investigation and discovered his dubious past. Clay was a juvenile delinquent as a teenager. He was rebel with a cause and wore it proudly. And you didn't know that he was a smoker, did you? Oh, yes, he was a smoker. Was it cigarettes? Was it a doobie? What was it? Oh, but he had that thing in his lips, and oh boy, was he proud of that. And he was also a drinker.
Yeah.
He liked to drink, and his favorite drink was Colt 45 malt liquor. And not only that,
you'll see it.
Not only does see Clay, Clay's already nervous out there. He is. Not only that, but he was a pool player, and he used to play in basement pool halls. And not only that, but he was so good, and he was so good. He was bigger than the table itself. Man, they sure didn't want to see, him around. And he tried to be incognito behind large rimmed glasses. Not only that, he couldn't do it in Seattle, and Mercer Island would have been a killer. He was still in the Washington area, but he just was not on Mercer Island. And I hope this doesn't destroy your political future, Clay, like other people have. But now to show you the screen. Oh, whoops! Wait a minute. I got to get back on here.
Sean, I gotta.
Okay, so now I'll do the share.
Okay.
Host.
No, I'm gonna host you. You're gonna be the host for a sec.
Okay. All right.
But you have to promise to give up the power after you're done.
Okay,
It's so good for a laugh. It's so good for a cackle.
are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah.
So what this was is we lived in Washington, DC, and he came for a visit, and I had a miniature pool table, and it was in the basement of the house. We found this empty Colt 45 can somewhere. I don't know if it was on the road or some other place. And the cigarette is actually rolled up piece of paper.
Yes.
And and there he is playing pool. And that's my story.
Stephen, that
Thank
was
you.
a great buildup. And I have to say, this whole photo thing was all your idea.
Well, of course you have to say that. Now, uncross your fingers, okay? All right, so that's my story.
Thank you, Stephen. That was a great summer. You put up with me for 2 extra weeks because of the airplane strike.
Well, then was that the time we went to the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Absolutely, yeah.
And
First
then
time
my
1966.
66, and then my brother had this little 50cc Suzuki that we drove 150 miles around this little circle in the backyard.
Yeah, and I crashed it into the side.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but now that you brought it up, but that's okay. It didn't matter. It didn't hurt you.
Great.
All right.
That was great, Stephen. Thank you.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Hi to Josie.
Yeah. All right. Mark Waldstein, are you in the house?
Oh man,
Can you-
Mark Waldstein. Hey, Mark.
Here we go. I think it
Murray of
shows-
1,000 Clowns.
Yeah. Nice to see you. You and I were lucky, Clay. We got a last visit in just before everything shut down with that
Yep.
movie.
Yep.
How's it going? How's your birthday going so far?
It couldn't be better.
Good or couldn't?
Couldn't be better.
Very good. And Meg, well, it's lovely to see you. It's been years, obviously, years. Well, I got to say happy birthday. I am actually doing this from my parents' house in Long Island, New York.
Long Island.
Where we are gathering to celebrate, not trying to top you or anything, my dad's 90th birthday.
Wow.
I'll take that applause for him. He's asleep at the moment.
That's a good sign for you too.
Right. Yes, I suppose so. That's true. So yeah, I'm supposed to tell a story. Is that am I on? Is it time?
It's your time.
My time. My time has come. I don't have a story anything like Steve just did. Because we don't go back that far. So just a simple story of coincidence, really. Because I'm teaching these days, and so I actually wind up with some nice free time in the summer. And yeah, for some reason I pulled out the book. The great big book of Steve Goodman, which I proudly have still very well displayed on my bookshelf and read a good chunk of at the time. Has anyone ever told you they actually went all the way through it on the first go?
Yes, amazingly
Okay.
so.
So
Including
why
my
did I ask-
publisher.
Why did I ask that question? Anyway, it's such a well-written book, and it's so wonderful and enjoyable. And I opened it up to re-enjoy it, to get back into it a little bit. Thought it would be a lovely thing for a summer afternoon. I opened the book and out tumbled a card, the postcard you were using in those days to advertise. And on the back, there was your signature. It says, "Keep on singing, Clay Eals." And I'd forgotten that you had done that. Say hello to my nephew, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
And Teddy.
Hey, Alex.
Hello.
Teddy.
I signed so many of those cards in a row, keep on singing. And about 50 into it, I noticed that I had inadvertently changed it, and it would say, "Keep on signing, keep on signing."
Well, I'm going to look more closely at the photo that you can't see. Maybe it's, but it was just a lovely thing to see after all these years. And of course, again, enjoying reading the book. So very
Thank you, Mark.
proud to own my copy of that. I'll send you the picture.
Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. I am trying to get back to seeing you guys because I still see me.
Happy your dad's birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, now I leave it to the 13-year-old to figure out how to operate this thing.
Always have to look for the youngest person in the room. That is the rule.
Yeah.
Saul, Broudy, are you here?
Saul, where are you?
Saul.
Hello.
Come on.
Hey,
Hello.
Saul, how you doing?
Okay, how you doing?
You look the same as when I met you in 1998.
I was going to ask when we met.
Yeah, you came out to stay with us for a week.
Yeah, well, let me start from, that's part of my story. That's part of my 1 minute here. So I'll tell you who I am first in relation to Clay, as he said before. I used to play harmonica with Steve Goodman. I'm from Philadelphia, and Steve Goodman lived most of his life in Chicago. And whenever I'd go out to Chicago, I got to play harmonica with Steve. And when he'd come to Philadelphia or New York, I'd often get to play harmonica with him. And I recorded on several of his albums. So when Clay was starting to write the book, somebody must have told him about me. And he called, what?
Ian Woofenden.
Ian did, okay.
Yeah.
And he called me up, and he was so nice and so earnest that I just spilled my guts to him and helped him with whatever I could. And I guess the first time we met in person, Clay, was when I came out to and we went up to see Ian Woofenden. Anacortes, is that where it was?
Yeah, we went to see a Brian Bowers concert.
Well, first we went up there to do a Steve Goodman tribute.
That was later. That was later. That was about 3 years later.
I'm all mixed up.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay.
Anyway, I've been the beneficiary of Clay and Meg's wonderful hospitality a couple times in West Seattle. And we've been at many folk festivals together. Just some that come to mind are the Philadelphia Folk Festival, our home festival here, and the World Folk Music Association in Washington, D.C.
I wouldn't have gone to that if not for you.
Pardon?
I wouldn't have gone to that if not for you. You told me I had to go there. All the people I needed to interview were there.
Well, I hope that worked out.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, it's been wonderful having all those wonderful memories with you, Clay. And I consider myself a close friend of yours, even though I haven't seen you in about 10 years or something like that. And you're a real mensch. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you, Saul. You were my very first hit source of more than 1,100 people I interviewed. You were number one.
That's my motto now. It's on my card. First source, Saul Broudy. Saul, first source, Saul Broudy.
Yeah. Let's do the thing now. Which getting to be fun.
Thanks for the opportunity to do this, Karey.
Yeah, thanks for being here. That's one more person. David Schulman.
Oh, David from LA.
There you are.
Ah, there's my album. David Schulman.
Oh,
David Schulman.
yes.
That's what I looked like in 1977. My own album.
I wish you could autograph it. I've owned this since 1978.
Wow. It's probably rare now. I think I saw it in the remainder bin for 50 cents, but you can't hardly find it anymore.
David, I think there's some liner notes on there by Steve Goodman.
And
Yes.
let's see.
All right, take it away, David.
Okay, take it away. I met Clay the old-fashioned way on the internet. But in the old days of the internet, when we had kind of message boards.
Yes.
And I discovered that there were actually other people who were Steve Goodman fans. I'm here in Los Angeles, and there are 4 of us here in Los Angeles. And Clay and I met through a distribution tree of some of Steve's performances, and Clay sure seemed to know an awful lot about Steve Goodman. And I eventually wheedled out of him that he was working on a book. And I just had the joy of watching it develop, seeing some of the parts of it, being interviewed by Clay in the very room I'm sitting in right now. And somehow, we know that the US mails have been all screwed up. A birthday card for Clay arrived at my door. And I don't know how that happened, but I'm hoping with some internet magic, Karey can help me display the card.
You should be able to display the card.
Okay, here comes the first, the cover of the card.
There it is.
I used to play tambourine with Steve Goodman's band. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
The best part of getting older is seeing what you can get away with. Happy birthday, love. Amy Madigan and the rest of the gang. You got Amy there with you?
No. I'm in LA, but it's a big town. She and Ed, I think, are on the beach somewhere. But it was just a remarkable coincidence. But no more remarkable coincidence than discovering you, Clay. You've become a wonderful friend.
Same here.
You've given the whole world a gift with the book and your passion and opening the way now for what Robert is doing. So happy birthday. I'll join you in the 70s, here in the 20s in just a couple of months.
I'll look forward to that, David. Amy Madigan sang the harmony vocal on The One That Got Away when Steve went on tour in 1979. And Amy herself was one of the ones that got away. I never was able to talk with her. I got a phone message from her saying, I want to talk, and a phone number, but she never called me back after I tried repeatedly. So that's a big curiosity inducer right there, David.
She was the only member of the band I could remember offhand who is still alive.
And she's known as a film actress now, but people don't know that she was a rock singer before that.
Right. Right.
Hey, Clay, I'm sorry to interrupt, and David, that is really amazing that you're showing that, because I'm going to see Ed Harris on Saturday.
Oh,
you are?
Yeah, and Amy might be there. Ooh. So I'm going to a literary event, and Ed's reading a famous short story by Richard Bausch. And anyway, so I'm involved in word theater, and so I'm going to mention this.
Oh, I almost signed it, love Amy and Ed, but I thought that might be a little too obscure.
Well, I will tell her. Okay, and
Robert, also, I'll send you the PDF of chapter 15, and you can print out a few pages in which she is referenced there.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. That would really be cool that I could give them that. Yes, I'm going to fill them in on what's kind of going on. I know that she would really want to know that. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, hey, listen, David, wonderful. I just love it that I could see that. I have to go make dinner right now. So, Clay, I'm going to have to sign off here. I love you, brother. And, thank you, Karey, for putting this all together. And Meg, this is really, and hear these stories. I really wish I could hear them all, but it's recorded. So maybe I could possibly do that.
We'll make that possible. Easily.
Okay. And David, I'm in LA too. I'm in Woodland Hills. So, perhaps our paths will cross soon. Okay.
I hope so.
Okay, brother.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks, David. So now we're coming to the point where we are going to sing happy birthday to Clay. One of the many great things about my dad is the birthday cookies that he makes. But one of the challenging things about my dad is that nobody knows what his favorite birthday cake is because he just really doesn't like cake. So Meg and I were, Meg and I were faced with a challenge, and we thought, what does my dad like? Well, what he likes the most, more than anything, is onions. So we got inspired at the last minute. So I'm going to ask you all to unmute so we can sing to
Look at this.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday
to
you.
With M&Ms.
Happy birthday, dear Clay. Happy birthday to you.
Now that's latency.
I gotta blow it out.
I've never seen birthday onions before.
All right, make your wish.
All right.
And a bonus.
Hey!
And a bonus, Kara. Let's do this.
We can eat these onions too.
And a bonus treat. Freshly popped today from the Admiral Theater that he saved in West Seattle by Marina, manager.
Wonderful.
It was free because she was so grateful for all that Clay has done, and she's doing now a lot. So yeah, he's all set for the night. We'll see if he can get out of bed in the morning.
Would you like some? Wow, this is so cool.
I've never claimed to be a cook, so, you know, Clay's easy in that department.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Wow, thank you. I wish I could teleport some of this popcorn to y'all.
Smell.
I'm seeing other people. Man, this is so cool.
Who else
Steve
is
Richmond
here that I didn't have on my list and would like to share a story? Wait, I saw a hand.
Carol's back on.
Steve Richmond?
I am.
I see your name. Lalani, look at you.
Is there anyone in the house?
Alyssa, you got your hair back.
I would.
Hat. Look at you. Man.
I would, Karey.
Yeah, all right, Karey.
I want it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Capture the moment.
Clay and Meg.
Karey Barber.
Hi.
Man,
So-
Karey Barber, the traveling musician and Renaissance woman.
And baseball umpire.
Yeah, if you've ever heard of women being umpires at various levels of baseball, the one person most responsible for promoting that, you're looking at her right now.
Well, the reason I didn't send in anything, Karey, sorry about that, is because I've been umpiring a tournament in Aberdeen, Maryland for 500 girls who play baseball.
Thank you.
So Clay and I met when he actually called me on the phone, and I went back through my files, Clay, and I think it was 2008 or 2009, something like that. Pretty long time ago.
When we met? No, it
Yeah.
was 1999. Steve Berg put us together.
Oh, wow.
And I waited
yeah.
for you in your apartment lobby. You were with a boyfriend at the time, and I was so tired. I was so embarrassed because you came into your apartment lobby and there I was asleep in your lobby in the chair waiting for you.
I am so sorry. I have a very small apartment and it's not suitable for waiting guests who are waiting. But anyway, yeah, Steve Berg is a great route for us to have. He was a wonderful guy, good friend for a long time.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to thank you and Meg for always being so kind and wonderful, and you put me up in your little apartment there in Seattle without complaint for weeks at a time while you were looking after your mom, Clay, and you know you were busy, but you still opened your home to me and just let me camp out for a couple of weeks, and I will always be grateful to you for that, and for including me in all of your shows and being able to sustain an interest in and a love for Goodman's music. It's really important. And one of the highlights of my life was this event at the Admiral Theater. And oops, that's my other cat. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, I was there and I've been at a few ones, and you've introduced me to some really wonderful people and connected so many of Stephen's friends who didn't know each other before you connected us. And that has been an epic journey for each of us as well as for you. And it's just wonderful the way Stephen's spirit still grows and keeps us all connected to each other. And you are the reason why. And I can't thank you enough for that.
Well, you're welcome. I got to use the phrase of the person you made sure I was able to interview and say it takes a village. And we all know that comes from Hillary Clinton. And, you know, it's the, you know, with your connections to her, I was able to interview her for the book. She was Steve Goodman's high school classmate. But your point is very well taken. It's why life goes on even after we're gone, because we keep connecting with others. I think it's a lesson of Goodman's life, and a good life lesson that we're supposed to connect and engage and inspire each other.
Yes, and I had to chase Hillary Clinton around for years.
Yeah, there you go.
That was when you sent me the first proof of the book, and I gave her a copy of it before it was published. And yeah, that was a lot of fun, chasing her around for years so she would sit for your interview.
A very important source for the book, because she and Steve were the two most prominent people, arguably, in their high school class back in suburban Chicago. And I love with her for 15 minutes. It was like she had nothing else on her mind. And she went right back to there. And some of her insights are among the best ones in the book. Thanks.
I know. And being able to read that her recollection of Stephen in high school was of, you know, like this kid hauling his guitar, who was bigger than he was at the time, hauling it around and just breaking out in song and music all the time. It was just so wonderful to learn that about him when he was young and what he was like before I knew him. So yeah.
Think about who's going to play the bit part of Hillary in the movie.
Okay, Meg.
Thank you, Perry.
All right, thank you. Love you both.
Love you.
Love you too, Karey, and your whole family. I feel like your family. And one of these days, Clay, maybe next summer, I'm going to get out to your baseball game at Alki Beach and umpire.
Oh my God,
you mean we got to have balls and strikes? Oh no.
Thanks, Perry.
Thank you.
I want to ask a couple of trivia questions.
Uh-oh.
Some of these are from Tab Melton.
Uh-oh.
The first one is, what piece of now disabled infrastructure was the subject of Bridging the Gap? Now, Tab came with multiple choice options, which I really am impressed by. And I'll give you a hint that the book is called Bridging the Gap.
It's a newspaper section, 104 pages.
No big deal. So your choices are A, the New Jersey Turnpike, B, the Audubon, C, the West Seattle High Bridge, and D, Alfred E. Newman's Smile. Does anyone have a guess?
All of the above.
C.
That's right. It's the West Seattle High Bridge. You get a piece of popcorn.
Yeah.
Is that the one that the boat ran into?
Yeah, well, that was the older one. Perry, you may not know that the high level bridge that you've come across many times has been closed for 1.5 years because the city detected some weakening underneath it. And so we now have to go from West Seattle all the way down almost to Burien and go onto the First Avenue South Bridge to get to the rest of Seattle. And West Seattle people tend to talk about how we live on the island now, and they talk about when are you going off island.
Wow.
But it's very odd to see that beautiful high bridge that was supposed to last 75 years last only 36 years. They're fixing it now, and they say it'll be open in another year or two.
Another year.
We'll
Wow. And is that structural weakening related to the accident when the ship?
Because the ship hit the low span, the low bascule bridges. That was what triggered the money coming for the high one.
Oh. You know the backstory about the ship's captain that ran into it, right? That
absolutely
he turned out to have murdered his wife or something really bizarre.
Well,
Yeah.
his wife murdered him.
He got murdered, right? Yeah.
And she went to jail and died in jail. The thing to remember about that incident in 1978 is that it created the best pun in West Seattle history.
What's that?
It was the night the ship hit the span.
Great, love it.
Steve Richmond got that right away.
Goodman would have appreciated it.
Absolutely, absolutely. He'd made a song out of it.
Speaking of songs, what two classic songs were traditionally played simultaneously at Clay's last 43 or so birthdays? The choices are A, Smoke on the Water and Let It Be. B, Free Bird and the Tennessee Waltz. C, The Star Spangled Banner and Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And D, the theme from Shaft and That's Amore.
Gotta be D.
Tab, you're brilliant.
So good.
Of course, it was The Star Spangled Banner and Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Think about that. How can you on piano with one hand play that one song, Star Spangled Banner, and Take Me Out to the Ball Game on the other hand at the same time? I have this recording that comes from 1991 Folklife, and I play it every year, because it's just phenomenal. And you see people concentrating, trying to figure it out, and then they get it, and you see their eyes brighten, and then you see these big smiles breaking out. It's just, I've never seen anything like it.
Clay, you gave me a copy of that recording for my baseball show, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, you did a review of baseball songs, including Dying Cub fans.
Yeah, right. But I hadn't thought about that piano two-hand.
Yeah, it was done by a guy named David Mahler, M-A-H-L-E-R. I don't know if he's still around.
Clay, you might like John Baptiste, you know, the band leader.
Yes.
He does a version of the Star Spangled Banner with one hand and Lift Every Voice and Sing, the so-called Negro National Anthem, with the other hand. You may enjoy that if you can.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up. It's probably on YouTube.
I think he does it during his recent interview with Terry Gross. So if you look up freshair.npr.org, you can probably get a hold of it.
I'll check it out. Ginny Stimson and Barb is there with you. I didn't see you until now. Wow, look at you. The Cowdens are well represented. Jerry VanderWood is deep in thought. And Bob Ewing is reclining, very relaxed.
So, Clay?
Yes.
This is Jerry.
Yes.
And sorry for barging in.
Thank you.
I wanted to chime in because I represent a different era of Clay. And Clay and I worked together at Fred Hutch. Before we get to that, I want to give a shout out to Meg. Hi, Meg and Carey. I saw Tab there. Hi, Tab. Dave E. Good to see you. Linda Gaynor. Good to see you. And so anyway, before we get to Fred Hutch, I want to remind people that before John Goodman, there was Carolyn Grimes. And Carolyn Grimes, and every time a bell rings, was Clay's first book before that. And I was just pulling up. I want to read a review that I found of the book, and it is goes like this. Some things in life work out well. Thank you, Miss Grimes, for your wonderful life. And thank you, Clay, for this great, sensitive, even inspirational account. It made my life a bit richer and will make my holidays just a tad sweeter. No lie, just like the movie, it's a bit of magic. And so that was Every Time a Bell Rings. And Clay worked on that while he was also working at Fred Hutch. And I remember when Carolyn Grimes came to a Fred Hutch event, you know, kind of as a celebrity guest, And Clay was interviewing her for, Fred Hutch Publications, and I was watching that, and you could see wheels turning in Clay's brain. That this is a really interesting story that should be told. And so he worked on that, and it really turned out great. It was a great product. I encourage everybody to look it up because it's really good. But back to Fred Hutch. Clay did many great things for Fred Hutch, and but one of the things in particular has to do with the Hutch Award. Does anybody know what the Hutch Award is? The Hutch Award had become a huge fundraiser for Fred Hutch, like raising, $250,000. It's a luncheon that the Mariners host, and it's really a great thing. But before it was this big deal, it was this forgotten baseball award that nobody knew about. And it became kind of a sideshow of the PI Sports Award banquet, and was just, kind of languishing. But Clay, with no small help from Dave Eskenazi, kind of worked on it year by year and made it bigger and bigger and bigger. And it outgrew the PI Sports Star of the Year award. And it became this huge fundraiser for Fred Hutch. And Clay just did a great job for that. And I have to think that to me, a common thread, the Admiral Theater, Carolyn Grimes, Steve Goodman, the Hutch Award, that the common thread of all of these things to me is that Clay's enthusiasm for these things helped other people see the diamond in the rough. And Clay is just great. I want to say happy birthday to you. I miss you. And hope to see you soon. So thanks, Clay, for everything.
Jerry, I want to tell just a very quick story on you. Jerry and I became pretty close when he was my boss at Fred Hutch. And one day, Jerry was sitting in my office along with, you may remember her name. I can't remember her name, from HR. She came and sat down with us a little bit. And I was telling you about the fact that, I was publications editor at the Hutch, but I was telling Jerry that I was talking with a friend of mine at the old West Seattle Herald, and that they were looking for an editor again. And I said that sort of sounded interesting. And this HR person, Michelle, I think was her name, she looked, her mouth dropped, and she said, "You're talking about going to another job, to your boss?" And Jerry's reply was classic. He says, "Nah, me and Clay got a deal. He's got to give me a year's notice." Jerry, you're one of the greats, and I do miss you. I do miss you.
Good to see you.
Say hi to your family.
Yep, will do.
All your J's.
Speaking of family, where do you live in Philadelphia, Karey? I had forgotten that you live in Philadelphia.
I live in Mount Airy.
Oh, okay. I live in Fox Chase.
I've heard of that.
I hadn't. When I lived in Mount Airy, I hadn't heard of it, but now I.
Between Germantown and Chestnut Hill. I want to just read you a couple of these really sweet things from the Google Jamboard that people wrote.
I feel like I'm going to float away here.
When I first met Clay, I thought, he's a great storyteller. He's so kind and passionate. Where are his notes? He didn't need any. What a kind, thoughtful, smart guy. This guy does his homework. He knows everyone in West Seattle. And when is this guy going to take a breath? When I think of Clay, I feel valued. I feel grateful he took a chance on me. I feel proud to have worked on projects with him. I feel important, valued, and supported. I feel warm. Something funny Clay said to me one time was, "I've got a little story to tell. It won't take long." And then somebody else said this. And somebody else said, "There's no crying in baseball." And somebody else said, yeah.
That's Barber Rainey, I can tell you that.
A surefire way to get Clay to smile is ask him if he can edit something you wrote. Some advice I have for Clay is don't work too hard, relax, toss some of those letters. Clay Eals, then awesome, now awesomer. There's more, and if you think of anything, you can click the link in the email and you can put more things on here. Because our goal is to get some tears going.
I'll just tell one short story about that notion that he is not one to always take a breath when he should. I've often said Clay needs a mountain to climb. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And when he was working on the history book of West Seattle, one of his first projects when he was editor, of course, doing this while editor of the West Seattle Herald.
What a year.
Yeah. And early.
I even enlisted her to write a chapter.
And I was working a full-time job. And I remember so distinctly waking up one night. He'd come to bed late. I don't know where he was. He was collecting historical photographs and stories from everyone, everywhere, you know, and they're precious treasures. I mean, things that they had saved, and it was everywhere. I could not figure out how he kept track of all of this and organized in his mind. But he'd come to bed late, and maybe he slept for 3 hours, or if that, and then he was getting up to leave again, and I remember so distinctly sitting straight up in bed and saying, Clay, you can't function that way. You don't have enough energy. You haven't slept long enough. But you know, what I learned in my life was I would be exhausted the next day long before Clay was. He would just keep going on this energy he had from everybody in the community. And I've had to learn that lesson over and over again. And I'm not sure I'm done learning it, but yeah, he's a great catch. If you can catch him.
I love you. You know, we go back to student newspaper days. I met her 52 years ago, and first couple of years on the paper, we had a lot of double bylines together, not coincidentally. And I knew back then. I knew back then. Thank you, Meg.
I just want to mention that when our family was going to the beach a lot, meaning my dad and like us, and then Doug and Denise and the 3 boys, and Dave and Cammie, everybody was going to the beach. Every year, my dad would organize a contest for like a beachcombing contest. Yeah. But he would always arrange the categories so that there was a category that each person would win.
That's the trick, is you see what everybody brings back, and they lay it out on the back deck of this house that we rented. And then my job was to go and look and create a category for each one so that everybody got to shine. I mean, it was really important for the little kids, you know.
There was like most complete sand dollar.
Yeah. We called
shiniest shell. You know.
We called it the stinky crab contest.
Yes.
Because the kids love to bring back stinky crab.
Jerry, is this the book you're talking about?
No.
No. What book are you talking about? The Fred Hutch book. Oh, he's asking about it. He still has to write that book.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I have 100 taped interviews, and I'm in the middle of transcribing them, and I'm trying to turn it into more of a combination memoir and biography, and take it through the theme of and I think that the title of the book would be a one word called manliness, because oddly enough, when they created the Hutch Award the year after he died, the original Hutch Award plaque had 4 nouns that were criteria for players to win the award. And this is 1965. Can you imagine an award today that would have a criterion of manliness? And that's a really rich area to explore, not only in Fred Hutchinson's life, but in my own life. And so I'm kind of trying to grapple with that and see how that could work. Because there have been a couple of minor books done on Fred, and I don't want to do just another typical biography. This would be something kind of new.
Another lesson.
Susan?
Susan Coles.
I ran in the other room and grabbed the Big Swill scrapbook because I suddenly remembered that.
Our
So
Routson newspaper days in the 1980s.
yeah, I know Clay through Meg. I worked with Meg at the Highline Times, and then I met Clay. And so we used to have these Robinson newspaper reunions called the Big Swill.
Like the Big Chill.
And, yeah, like the Big Chill. And the first one was 1988. So that's Clay explaining the finer points of softball to me. 8. In 89, that was in swim. In 89, we rented a community center or something, Ramblewood Swim Bay State Park. Here's Clay presenting George with the world's biggest ball of plastic wrap.
Okay.
And then 1990, the Big Swill, what did we call that? The return of softball, that got canceled. So in 91, we had the Big Swill 3 in search of softball. And this was at West Seattle at Gene Sweeney's house. And there's Meg and Clay and Caron and Scott Terrell and their boys.
Yeah. And
but at this one, Clay, I have a question for you. I found a card, a thank you card that Brad Broberg's wife sent to me. And she said, thanks so much for your hard work on the swill. We had a wonderful time. And Rachel is still talking about Clay. Rachel was like 3 years old or something then. So what was going on? Were you giving her the finer points of softball or making
flipping her upside down?
I don't know. Quite seriously, I've always had a good connection with little kids. And that's probably it. You know, some people don't pay attention to them. And I figure they need some attention. And it's pretty easy to quickly make a bond with them, you know?
Oh.
I don't remember the specifics, but I think that's the answer.
You have a baby face here. I can't, I don't know who that
on
is.
the left, but that's Dave Kelleher on the right.
Yeah. Who's this?
I don't know. Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't know.
You're right. It is a beer, which is like his one annual beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well, anyway, I've enjoyed working or knowing Clay, and then he roped me into helping research a chapter on the West Seattle story or West Side Story.
Yep. And
just about 3 or 4 months ago, when I was still working, I'm now retired. Yay! We were working on a history. Burien is trying to do like a native, what do you call it? Acknowledgement that Burien is on native land.
Right.
And so they wanted some history. And so among other things, I dug out West Side Story to see if there was anything that related to the South End in Burien, and it didn't, but it was kind of fun looking through it. And I told my boss about it because she lives in West Seattle, and she was like, oh, I have to borrow this and look at it. Which reminds me, I better make sure I got it back from her. Anyway, so it was kind of fun to see the book again and use it as a resource.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks for your help on that. I mean, yeah, we were pulling people in right and left. Lord love a deadline, you know?
Thanks, Susan.
Sure.
Who else would like to tell a story or a joke or a greeting or anything at all? We are way beyond our Jack David.
Yeah, I've got a little story.
Uh-oh. Well, he's a man of few words.
But reads a lot of them.
Yes, that's right. That's because he reads a lot of them.
Thanks, Clay. Somewhere around.
He hit Jack heads ECW Press in Toronto.
Clay, let me do the
Without
talking.
him, that book would not be there.
Thank you.
Clay, let me tell the story.
I'm going to, yes.
Okay.
I just appreciate you so
So
much.
somewhere around 2005, I got a pitch for a book about Steve Goodman, who I vaguely knew about. And since I look at all the manuscripts that come in, I took a look at it, and it was a single chapter with maybe an outline. Clay will correct me here. Don't, Clay. And I read the first chapter, and it was a narrative chapter about somebody being at a Steve Goodman concert. And the writing was terrific. It was lively. It put me right in place. And I thought, boy, it's probably the beginning of a pretty good book. So I got in touch with Clay and I said, I'd like to see the manuscript. I didn't expect that I was going to get a manuscript that was 80,000 pages long. But I began to read. I took it to the cottage. It took me 3 full days to read it, as anybody who's read it will know. And these were straight through days. There was, except maybe for a baseball game, there was no interruption. And it was a great book. Still, it's a great book. We went ahead, we published it, had a color section, had an index with photos, stuff you've never seen before. And then in 2007, I was flying to Vancouver, and I mentioned it to Clay, and Clay said, I'll come up from Seattle, we'll meet at the airport. So we meet at the airport, we're having a coffee and having a pleasant time. And I reach into my suitcase and I pull out the first copy of the book. I thought, we're gonna have to call 911 on this one because I thought it was all over for Clay at that point. And to see the pleasure on his face was then reflected in the pleasure in my face. And it's been a pleasure for the last, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 years. So thanks, Clay.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. It's ECW Press. I cannot say enough good about you and what your approach and how you represent the world of small publishers. I mean, people always, writers often aspire to the Simon & Schusters of the world. Well, forget them. You're just a little cog. When you're working with a small publisher who cares about you, it becomes a relationship, just like this one is. And I couldn't have found a better home. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I also think that you kind of warmed to this because you're about the same age as Steve Goodman would be today if he had lived.
Oh, thanks, Jack. We are well beyond our time, but if anyone else would like to say anything else, I didn't really plan a big finish.
Well, we can put the slideshow up again when it's done, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you didn't see the slideshow at the beginning, you can watch it again. A lot of you are in it.
That's right.
Yeah. And
What do you want me to
and
do?
we say, just hold it for a minute. And we say to everyone, just keep in mind, you know, we are at the age we are, but the best, he's the best, but you're all the best. We love you and we appreciate you being here. And the best is yet to come. That's my motto. So you can claim it as your own. And we're grateful for this day for Clay. You want to?
Thanks for being here. Yeah.
Woo!
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Clay.
Happy birthday, Clay. Good to see everyone.
Sean, I bet you would like to have done that.
Happy birthday, Clay.
I'm so impressed. I never knew you bicycled that far, Clay. I'm so impressed.
Well, it was the trip of a lifetime, I tell you.
Wow.
71 days, 4,500 miles. And Meg was at the end of it. I had motivation.
Wow. There you go.
In Boston.
Somehow I never knew that about you.
Well, that's, you know, we're talking to a guy whose bicycling is his middle name. He has run a business for many years of landscaping and removing invasive ivy and doing personal consulting on landscapes solely by a bicycle. And if you know West Seattle is nothing but hills. And still Steve has stuck in West Seattle and done this. And I have so much admiration for you. And if you were to stand up, people could see evidence of how that has kept you nice and slim.
Thank you. I have to say though, it's been on an electric bicycle for the last 5 years. So
any bicycle will work. And
well deserved. Old knees.
Steve's also an ace photographer. We met in the newspapers back in the 1980s. I'm actually proud, not proud, but I'll happily say that I didn't pick Steve Richmond when I was hiring a photographer. It came down to two guys, and I picked the other one, and I'm glad I did. But I'm so glad that about a month later he got on at the sister paper at Highline. So we all got.
Me too. It was much more exciting in Burien.
Right, I was there.
I know. Hi, Clint. Hi, Meg. We had a great time.
Yes, we did.
Thank you.
And Susan. That was good years.
We have still left on this call. I want to point out we have the world's best host of house concerts, Stan and his wife Linda Hargis, and we have the legendary from the 1970s KZAM, the voice of KZAM. She's smiling a big one now, Leilani McCoy, and man, it's just good to see everybody. Thank you for. I mean, you really went the distance, you guys.
All right, thanks. See you, everyone.
That seems like a good note.
Oh, Jayne DeHaan was there. Ed Ramey's there. He's hiding behind his name. And
Good night,
Coleen,
everyone.
Will Van Ice, did you see Will?
Yeah, Will's there. Will's the studious one.
Well, happy birthday, Clay, and thanks, Karey, for putting this together.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Sean. Glad you guys were represented.
Yes.
Wonderful job,
Let's hear
Karey.
that, and Chris. Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Wonderful job, and Clay, happy birthday.
Thank you.
And happy birthday.
Because the slideshow needs to keep going.
Does it really?
Yeah.
No.
Happy birthday, Clay.
No. We
Thank you.
stopped everything.